Welcome on, ladies. This is Dr. Carmen Jones. She is so phenomenal. She's your host tonight. And yes, we're making a pickled fermented garlic, and I'm going to hand it off to her, and she's going to bless us with all of the knowledge that she has. So grab your pickled garlic and woo, let's get to fermenting.
All right, thank you. I'm excited, you guys. Tonight we're gonna make fermented honey garlic. And so we're kind of gonna go through, like, the putting it together is not too challenging, but I'm gonna teach you guys a little bit about all the benefits of garlic and why this is something that's gonna be beneficial to have in your medicine cabinet at home. So what we're making, so today, our main ingredients are our garlic, right? Yay, garlic. And honey, right? These are the big powerhouses here. And we are going to make something kind of like this. This one's been fermenting for about a month or so. And I'm going to kind of show you the differences. But I already started peeling some of my garlic because it takes a little while. It's probably the longest process. The longest step in all of this is just kind of peeling the garlic. So a couple of things. When you buy garlic, right, we're using, this is a bulb, and each piece of that is a clove. But when you're buying garlic, you really want to look for the roots. You see the roots here? Yeah. There's a lot of different garlics that you can find at the grocery store. But when your garlic has the roots on the bottom, oftentimes that's garlic that's produced in the US. When it doesn't have roots on the bottom, that means it's been cleaned and it's probably from overseas. And sometimes garlic from overseas can be a little bit adulterated. They can inject stuff in it. So I like for people to try and get a garlic, whatever's available to you. But if you can find one with the roots on the bottom, it's less likely to be messed with. Yes. There's a lot of places in the US that sell garlic, in California and in Georgia. But so keep an eye out for that. I like to buy these large pounds, these large bags of garlic, because I use a lot of garlic, especially this time of year. There's a lot of really good medicine you can kind of make with garlic. So there's a couple of different ways that that people do to peel garlic, and I've kind of tried them all, but I haven't had as much luck with trying to get those hacks to work, where people will put them in hot water in a jar and shake it up and try to peel the paper off. Sometimes that works for me, and sometimes it doesn't. It's just not always consistent. So the way that I do it is I just pop the cloves open, and then I just smash them with a knife to break that paper and open it up. Now, the reason why garlic is so beneficial is a lot of different components are in garlic. So there's actually different proteins called alanine, and when it's crushed, it starts a domino effect of enzymes. The enzyme that's most well known and most studied is called allicin. And that's what gives garlic that garlic flavor or garlic smell, right, that we're so familiar with and that hopefully we love, is that allicin. So that particular constituent is what has been studied the most as far as the research goes. And there's a lot of benefits they found that allicin has. The number one, sort of at the top of the list that most people know it for, is the antimicrobial properties, or the antimicrobial means it helps against bugs, right? So that includes viruses, bacteria, fungus, parasites. It has been studied over and over again on how effective it is. And things from like staph aureus or strep or MRSA, methicillin resistant staph aureus, salmonella, and even candida has been shown to, or it has been shown that allicin is effective at killing those particular species of bacteria. We have seen, as far as like, I usually talk about garlic quite a bit in cold and flu season, because there's also actually good studies that show by adding garlic, usually it's fermented garlic is what we see, can reduce the length and the severity of illness. So that what that means is less missed days of work, less missed days of school, oftentimes less fever in little ones when they're taking garlic preventatively in the cold winter months. So this, once we put the whole concoction together, garlic is really, this makes a fantastic like cough syrup, especially if you have little ones. But if you come down and you have like a dry throat, like you wake up in the morning and you kind of have that dry throat, or a little bit of a cough, or even if you're just feeling down at the end of the day, or like you've been around somebody who's been sick, it's nice to be able to have this handy so that you can just take a couple of spoonfuls and help to support your body to get ahead of whatever bug you may have been exposed to. So some of the other excellent properties of garlic that specifically the allicin that have been researched that can be beneficial for folks is it's also anti-inflammatory. So it can be very good for infections, for indigestion, even for allergies. Garlic can be really beneficial. So if you still have some of this around come spring and you have a tendency to have a lot of allergies, I'm going to encourage you to start taking a couple of teaspoons, one to 2 teaspoons a day to even help in the spring if you still have some. The cardiovascular benefits, or like the heart benefits, have been shown time and time again to be things like it's what we call anti-lipidemic. So it's great in lowering cholesterol. So if you have concerns of cholesterol, this can be really helpful with reducing cholesterol, reducing inflammation. So that means it can also be helpful in reducing plaque or atherosclerosis in your blood vessels, if you've ever been told that that's an area of concern. It does lower cholesterol, lowers not just the total cholesterol, but also LDL, if that's on your radar. We do know that it also lowers blood pressure because it dilates the blood vessels. So it can be a great way if people are worried about their blood pressure creeping up or wanting to have some support as they're working through their blood pressure medication. Garlic can be really helpful for that as well. And it's also protective against strokes and blood clots, because there is in the garlic, there's what we call a fibrinolytic activity, which means it breaks down the fibrin, which is found in blood clots. So if you have a history of like DVTs or pulmonary embolism or strokes or heart attacks, garlic can be very beneficial for that as well, because it helps to break down those clots. So another fabulous benefit of garlic. It also, so I alluded just a little bit that it helps with digestion. So it's what we call a carminative. So if people have a tendency to have indigestion or heartburn or acid reflux a lot, or if they get a lot of even bloating after eating, garlic can be very helpful in relaxing the digestive tract and supporting digestion. It can also balance out the probiotics in our gut as well. So that is some of the benefits of garlic. Let's see, what did I leave out? So let's see. Oh, that's also a expectorant, right? So I don't know if you guys are familiar with that term, but it helps you to cough stuff up, right? So this can be great for like upper respiratory stuff, bronchitis or strep. where you got that cough and you feel like you need like help loosening up the congestion in your chest. That's what we call an expectorant, helps you get rid of it or spit it out. Garlic is excellent at that as well. Yeah, so this is like something very handy to have on board. All right, let's see. You guys have any questions about garlic?
Yes, I have been taking notes and I have a couple of questions. So I'll just give you one or two now, and then I'll let you keep talking. So maybe you'll like answer them. But okay, so how much should we take at a time and how often? Like, is this something we should eat every morning? Or should we just like eat it raw by itself or include it with foods? Like, how much should we take? How often should we take it? And also, is it better raw or like fermented? Because I know cooked like takes away some of the benefits, right?
True. Yes. So if you want it for like the antibacterial benefits, oftentimes if you do it raw is a little bit better, because you really get like that allicin is just being released, right? So you crush that garlic, it's just being released. If it's something that's usually like maintenance, I usually have people take like 1 or 2 cloves of garlic a day just for maintenance. So you can do that in your concoction that we're going to make, or you can do it raw, or, you know, just minced up with a teaspoon of honey. I have some people who put it in hot water and as a beverage. If you want to add it to your food, you can mince it, but put it on top after the food is cooked. Right. You made up a really good point. If you cook the garlic, you break down those proteins, that allicin. And so then you're getting it for the flavor, but you're not getting it for all the excellent qualities we just talked about, for the blood pressure, for the protecting the heart, anti-inflammatory, for the antimicrobial properties. So if you want it for those, I have people just mince like 1 or 2 cloves and put it on top of their meal, right? And so, or as long as you can put it in the pan, but put it in the pan for just a couple of seconds, less than 5 seconds, because when it hits that over 180 degrees, you lose a lot of that. So if you're sick, like with an infection, whether it's a viral or bacterial infection, I do have people go up in acute dosing. So the 1 to 2 cloves a day is maintenance. Acute dosing, if you're doing with the honey mixed in, I have people take a teaspoon of that concoction every 2 hours. Okay. Now sometimes you have to always put caveats. Okay. So if you have a blood sugar issue, or if you have concerns about blood sugar or diabetes, that's probably not going to be a good dose for you. Okay. Because even though honey is also antimicrobial and really beneficial, it still does have some glucose in it, so it can spike insulin. So if you have insulin resistance, or if you're diabetic, you may not be able to take 1 teaspoon every 2 hours. Okay. But if that isn't you, and you have an infection, then it's acute dosing. You need to do it often. Okay. If you're trying to address something like the blood pressure or the cholesterol, right? Or even as an anti-inflammatory or for the digestion, I usually have people not dose acutely, but maybe like 1 teaspoon twice a day. So usually like with 2 meals. If you eat a lot of garlic raw or by itself, it can burn, right? And cause some indigestion and some upset. So I usually have people take it with food or with a little snack. Or if you're doing it with the honey concoction, then that makes it a lot milder. And so it decreases the risk of burning, like your throat or your stomach, or making you feel nauseous after you take it. So I hope that makes sense. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so by a teaspoon, do you mean like with the liquid included, or are you just meaning kind of basically like another clove?
With the liquid included. Yeah. So you can either do a teaspoon of just the liquid or a teaspoon with the clove and the liquid together.
Okay.
Yes.
And then the fermenting process will make it, because I've learned the hard way when I started testing, like taking raw garlic. I can take it on an empty stomach and feel fine, but if I take it after a meal, I'll throw up. So like, it's like the fermenting process will make you less like nauseous, or is that something?
Yes, it's a lot milder. It's
Okay.
a lot milder when you ferment the garlic, or like when you age it, it's a lot milder. So like I said, it's less likely that,
Okay.
you'll get nauseous. Some people on an empty stomach, if they just take the garlic by itself, it will be a little bit burny and it kind of stirs up your stomach and can make you nauseous. So that's why fermenting it in the garlic is a lot milder. Yeah. So then you can take more doses. Yeah. Then if you're, yeah.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right. Any other questions about garlic? All right. Well, I've got a pretty good pile here. There's a couple more that I want to do. So in order to release that allicin, we have to break the cell walls of the garlic. Okay. So there's a lot of different ways you can do that. There are some folks who will, like I crush it because it's easier for me. So I just take let me get this last piece peeled here. Take the flat edge of my knife and lay it against the garlic, and we'll just crush it. And then it makes it easier to peel, but it releases those cell walls, right? So then you start to smell, my whole house is starting to smell like garlic. I bet yours is too. There are some people, especially when they do the fermentation process, if they don't want to crush it, they'll take a toothpick and they just stab a ton of little holes in their garlic. Because again, you want to release that allicin. So if you don't crush it or you don't break those cell walls, it's not going to be as strong. And I mean strong as in it's not going to be as potent. So if you just take a toothpick, I don't know if you can see this. I haven't figured out this camera, but if you just take a toothpick and stab your garlic cloves with it, then it'll start releasing that allicin. Or my mom likes to crush it with a jar. She just takes a jar and just smashes it. But whatever works, we need to be able to release that allicin. Okay, so you'll notice it'll be much more pungent when you release those enzymes. Now, those enzymes, just like if you cook them, they will degrade really quickly. Well, the same thing goes with the timing. Okay, so when you crush that allicin or crush those cell walls and release that allicin, we want to ferment it. So we want to either get it in preservative somewhat quickly, because if I were just to set this out and let it ferment not ferment, but like I forgot about it and left it on my cutting board or in the kitchen on the counter, those allicin will continue to degrade to other sulfur compounds. And so we want to capture that allicin. Those other sulfur compounds, again, not as potent as the specific allicin. So once you got that starting to crush, essentially the recipe here with these is a 1-to-1, right? So you kind of have to eyeball it or get you a measuring cup, and depending on how much garlic you have, that's how much honey you need. Okay. I do have some people who like to mince the garlic. They'll mince it and, with one of those hand mincers, or chop it up. When you chop it up, again, you're releasing that allicin as well. So that's just another way to do that. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here. Not really, huh? Let's see. I just got a couple more to do. So if you wanted to like give it a rough chop, you're more than welcome to. I keep mine whole. It kind of depends on the size of your cloves, right? So if you're taking about a teaspoon at a time, you want to kind of approximately like, oh, my cloves are about teaspoon size, or if your cloves look like tablespoon size, you know, you might want to do just like a rough chop, just to kind of get them about the size that looks like it'd be easy to take. Okay. All right. All right. I'm going to put my garlic in my jar now. All right. So I just got a jar. I use a funnel because I'm messy. And I just, start collecting the garlic that you've chopped up, and you just want to put it in the bottom of your jar. If you're really technical, you can measure it and say you've got about a cup of garlic, so you'll have an idea of how much honey you want to use. All right. You can tell that your garlic is releasing all that allicin because your fingers will get really sticky, right? When your fingers get really sticky, you can tell you are on the right track, okay? It didn't bring a wet type here. All right. So I'm not filling up this jar tonight, but all right. So we've got our jar of garlic, right? Whew, strong. All right, now for our honey, okay? So like I said, if you didn't actually measure it, you can eyeball it. We want to cover all of your garlic cloves in honey, all right? So the benefits of honey, right? So I prefer people try and get local honey where you can, right? Support those local beekeepers if you can. If you can't find local honey, look for raw, unfiltered honey in the grocery store, okay? You want raw and unfiltered, and you still want to read the ingredients, okay? This is crazy because a lot of the honey in the US is also adulterated. So sometimes they will mix it with things like Karo syrup, or brown rice syrup or something. And so that's why if you get it from local folks, you have a better idea of actually what's in it. So I'm just going to pour my honey in. So hopefully you guys have heard of honey, the medicinal benefits of honey, not just honey in general, but the medicinal benefits. Some of the medicinal benefits of honey have been documented. I had to write it down, have been documented back to 2100 or 2000 BC. They found on a Sumerian tablet the benefits of honey, using it as a drug and an ointment. And I thought that was so interesting. Aristotle, even in from 384 to 322 BC, documented the different uses of honey and the different colors of honey. So you may notice honey comes in different colors as well. This is a light honey. This is an amber honey. I have a dark one, but I forgot to bring it out. The color of the honey is based on what plants the bees harvested the nectar from or the pollen from. So sometimes you can get really like dark brown honey that's not really that see-through, or like a light honey, a red clover. Like usually here, we usually see things like red clover honey, amber honey. Those are the most common that you see. But the benefits that Aristotle was talking about is he was talking about how they noticed some of the lighter honeys worked as better salves than some of the darker honeys. The darker honeys were more efficient for like lung and respiratory issues. So it was interesting to see that even back in the 384 BC, that they were looking at the variations of honey. They were using it to put it on people's eyes if they had like eye infections or sore eyes back then, and for wounds. And so yes. Okay. So once you put your honey in, you're going to want to mix it with something to make sure that you kind of it's kind of getting all the air bubbles out, but you want to mix it well, because you want all the sides of that garlic to be surrounded by the honey. Okay, so you'll notice that it's very, very thick. I need to add more honey to mine. Yeah. So even though honey's been documented since the about 300 BC, we still see research today being done on honey for wound care. Very effective. They make honey bandages. Manuka honey may be something you guys have heard of. That's kind of the most common honey that we see in the research. Manuka honey from New Zealand. But you can also see different varieties of honey as well. And for wound healing, so now they have like Manuka honey wound dressings. They found that honey is very effective against indigestive issues, things like ulcers or acid reflux, because it coats the mucous membranes in the digestive tract. Very helpful. That's why it's a good cough syrup as well. If people have a dry throat or bronchitis or upper respiratory issue, honey's really beneficial because it coats and it kind of soothes those mucous membranes. Right. They've seen research that it's very effective anti-inflammatory as well. So what that means, oftentimes when people are sick, like if you experience a lot of congestion or a lot of you don't feel well, so not the fever, but like maybe some of like the aches and pains that come like when you don't feel well because of an infection, can sometimes be your body's inflammatory response and not just the bug that you're fighting, right? This is why conventional medicine will, like if you're sick and you go in, if they give you an antibiotic to address a bacterial infection or antiviral, sometimes they'll give you a steroid as well. And that steroid is anti-inflammatory. So it suppresses your immune system a little bit so that you feel okay. You can go to work, you can, go to school or do the things that you need to do. Well, that steroid's anti-inflammatory. So honey has that property as well. It's not as strong as a steroid, but it's anti-inflammatory in that it will help to kind of modulate that immune response so that you can feel better faster. Perfect. So the other things that I wanted to tell you about honey is it's also an antioxidant. So some of the polyphenols and flavonoids you can find in honey can be helpful against anti-aging and anti-cancer. And then some of the research also shows the antimicrobial bacteria or the antibacterial activity. I didn't say that right. Antibacterial activity against specific bacteria. So things like E. coli, things like staph, things like, again, MRSA or MRSA, things like strep. There's plenty of research out there that shows how effective honey is by itself against those things. And so we're kind of making this like super power concoction by mixing our honey and our garlic together. Okay. All right. How are you guys doing? How's it look? Good. All right. So if you'll see, it's kind of hard to see, but in mine, you can see it's very thick, right? So what will happen over time, I'm just going to let this rest. Over time is that that allicin will continue to be released from the garlic, and then will create a little bit more moisture in this concoction. If your rim is really sticky, you definitely want to wipe it off either with a wet towel or maybe some white vinegar so that your lid doesn't get sticky. Okay. So even if you're filling up your whole entire jar, all right, you want to leave at least a little bit of headspace, okay? Because this garlic, as it ferments, it releases that allicin, it will bubble, okay? So if you wait a day or two and you check on this, just leave it on the countertop, you will start to notice bubbles at the top. You'll start to notice a little bit of liquid, Okay, shake it up and mix it really good. Let that liquid integrate into the rest of the concoction, and then just watch it for a little bit longer. After about 2 weeks, you'll start to see the consistency change quite a bit, and it'll start to get liquidy like this. You see how this is like super liquidy, or less viscous is what we call that, versus this one, right? This is going to take forever for this one to come down. The honey creates that anaerobic environment, or that environment so that the good bacteria will grow. So over time, it's usually about a month is when I have people start eating it. But you can start eating it in about 2 weeks. But the longer it ferments, the better. But this will last up to a year on your counter. You don't have to put it in the fridge. It's shelf stable, if you will. If you add more garlic or more honey to it, it'll change the date, right? So I usually have people, once you make your batch, start another batch if you want to add more garlic and honey. Instead, like when this starts to get low and you're like, oh, I really like that, just start a new batch instead of trying to keep adding to this one. Does that make sense? Yeah. So honey and garlic. So that's it. It's pretty straightforward. Like I said, so I can tell I have plenty. So you can see this garlic is starting to float, right? Like there's some honey in the bottom and the garlic is kind of floating to the top. So that's why after a couple days, you'll start to see these bubbles will start to gather at the top. And so you want to shake it up really well so that it kind of incorporates back into the liquid, right? And then, yeah, over time, this, like I said, this one's about a month old, and this one I didn't chop up. I mean, these are kind of large cloves. I didn't chop them up because I was tired. I was like, oh, I need to get something ready for this class. So you have a before and an after. But you'll see the liquid will turn a little bit darker, right? As well as a lot less viscous. So your dosing, like I said, for maintenance, you only need about a teaspoon a day. If you're just trying to get the benefits of the honey and the garlic for not just the antimicrobial properties, right, but even to protect your heart, the antioxidants, the antifungal properties, the anti-aging properties. If you're doing it if you want to start taking it because you're sick or you have an illness, if it's an infection of some sort, bacterial or viral, that's when you would increase your dose to every 2 hours. If you don't have a blood sugar issue. If it's something that's more chronic, like blood pressure or high cholesterol you're trying to address, you only need to take about a teaspoon twice a day. If it's something that's more chronic that you're trying to address. Yeah. There you go.
Yay. Okay, we have about 5 minutes left on the timer. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing with us all about garlic and honey. I do have one question.
Yes.
How much is too much? Because the video that I saw on TikTok that inspired this class showed a girl just eating basically like the whole jar. So,
in one sitting?
Yeah, she was just like eating it. She was just like encouraging people to eat it for like better health and better skin. So, and she made her super spicy and it was trending. So how much is too much? Because I saw her do that and I was like, is she gonna get an infection? Like, you know?
She probably isn't gonna get an infection. But if you're eating like a half a cup of this a day, you're really going to, or every day, you're going to have an insulin problem, right? Your insulin's not going to be able to keep up with it. So I wouldn't advise that. You could do a tablespoon a day. Maybe, yeah, I wouldn't do much more than that. Like I said, unless you're acutely ill, then, you know, I may go up in dose where you could do like a tablespoon, you know, 4 or 5 times a day. But even though there's a lot of awesome benefits of honey, you can have too much of a good thing. Okay. Yeah. And also I love that you mentioned that. I'm sorry, I forgot my spices. So you can totally spice this up. Add your chilies, add your chili peppers. That's a cedar. I had some rosemary I was going to bring out and put some rosemary in it. You can add onions. You can add green onions to it if you wanted to, or even like red onions. Red onions will make everything turn purple, but even if you wanted to, you know, add like white onions or yellow onions to it, rosemary, sage, thyme, chilies, or red pepper flakes even, would work well with this.
Yay.
Yes.
Do those have like added benefits as well, being fermented? And
Yes.
For life.
So if you're doing spices that are very smelly or very flavorful, like the rosemary, right, like sage, and even red pepper flakes, they have a lot of volatile oils in them. And so a lot of those volatile oils are also antimicrobial and have a lot of antioxidants in it, right? So I would consider adding those types of herbs. You could do, if you wanted something that was a little bit lighter, you could do orange peels. Organic orange peels or organic lemon peels works really well with this as well. Yeah. Kind of reminds you a little bit, kind of like a marmalade type thing. Yeah. But it's a little bit lighter, so you're not getting sort of the savoriness of the rosemary or like the heat from the chilies or the red pepper flakes. Yes.
And the spicy stuff has capsaicin, which I can't remember why it's beneficial, but I know it's good.
So capsaicin. So capsaicin's not as antimicrobial, but it's great for circulation, right? So it gets things moving. So like we think of circulation, it's great for high blood pressure, it's great for the heart, reducing lipids. But the more that you get your blood flowing, that means it's better for your immune system, it's better for the lymph, it's better for detox, because oftentimes we have a tendency to be stagnant. And so anytime we can find ways to get things flowing, capsaicin's excellent at that. So it's also great for like joint pain or aches and pains, decreasing inflammation. Yeah. Add those chilies to there.
Awesome. We have 2 minutes left. If anyone else has any other questions. Do you have anything you want to add, Carmen?
I think that covers everything I wanted to make sure and share today. Yeah. If you guys
is the video recording going to be up on the Facebook page?
Yes, I will try to upload it. I've never tried uploading such a large video, but I will make sure that it's available for the replay somehow. So I will post it there. So yes. Yeah. Well,
perfect. If you guys have questions, let me know. If you want to try other variations or other dosings, just tag me in the replay and I'll be happy to address them.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, ladies, for joining. Please take a picture with your jar, post it in the group. If you decide to spice it up in any way, let us know what you decide to do. And then in how many weeks? 6 weeks? How many weeks?
4.
4 weeks. 4 weeks. So in 4 weeks, take a picture, post it, share it, let us know.
Yes.
Taste test. And we hope you enjoy. We hope you stay healthy and thriving this cold and flu season. So yay. Woo. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
See you, ladies. Peace out.
Bye.
Whoa.